I was taken aback when my sister-in-law and mother-in-law criticized me so harshly, completely unaware of the sacrifices I had made. They had no idea that I was taking over my mother-in-law's debts, and their lack of gratitude stung deeply. As I packed my bags, preparing to leave, they began to understand the full extent of what I had been hiding, and their attitudes shifted. My name is Emma, and I'm 32 years old, juggling a demanding career in the city. During my student days, I was always nestled in the library, lost in my studies. Once I started working, my life was consumed by a mountain of responsibilities, leaving no time for myself. A well-meaning friend noticed my neglect of personal life and suggested, "Emma, you should make time for love." She organized a group blind date for me, and that's where I met John. Working in a city center office, John was a fresh graduate and seemed genuinely interested in me. Though I was nervous about dating again, his kindness and gentle encouragement helped us gradually open up to each other. Our feelings deepened quickly, and within a year, we decided to marry. It felt like a dream come true, a remarkable shift from my work-centric life. My friend, astonished by how fast things had progressed, remarked, "Wow, you're actually getting married." I replied with excitement, "Yes, it's amazing, isn't it? I'm so glad you set up that blind date. I truly appreciate it and can't wait for the wedding." With excitement and anticipation, I was about to step into a new chapter of my life. Our first step was to introduce each other to our families. My parents greeted John with warmth and enthusiasm. "Emma, it's been a while since you mentioned a boyfriend, and I was starting to worry you might not get married. John, please take good care of her." Hearing these words made me realize for the first time how deeply my parents cared. Although they had always given me the freedom to make my own choices, I could now see their unspoken hope for me to find happiness in marriage. Their concern and support warmed my heart. When I visited John's home for the first time, I felt a mix of nervousness and excitement. His parents were incredibly kind and made me feel at ease right away. We all sat down for dinner, and while I was eager for the occasion, I was also a bit anxious, especially about meeting John's sister, Melissa. At 25, she was straightforward and candid, which caught me off guard. She asked, "Emma, aren't you getting married a bit late?" Her comment about how she would have decided sooner if she were me was a bit shocking. Despite this, John's support helped ease the tension, and we enjoyed a pleasant dinner together. Planning our wedding was a joyful experience, and the ceremony itself was held at a location we both loved, surrounded by friends and family. The day was perfect, and our honeymoon was filled with fun and adventure. When we returned home, we embarked on our new life together, finding joy in everyday moments. Whether we were going on dates or watching movies at home, the freshness of our newlywed life made each day delightful. It had been about 2 years since our wedding when our serene life took a sudden and dramatic turn. We received the heartbreaking news that my father-in-law had passed away. Although I was aware of his health issues, his death came as a shock, arriving much sooner than we had anticipated. Both my husband and I were deeply affected by the loss, and my mother-in-law's grief was particularly profound, which was palpable to us. However, the situation took an even more surprising turn when we discovered that my mother-in-law was deeply in debt. It turned out she had been deceived by someone unscrupulous and had lost a significant amount of money. This revelation left us stunned. Despite the gravity of the situation, my husband, ever the compassionate soul, expressed his desire to help. We decided to use our joint savings to alleviate her debt as much as possible, feeling that it was essential to support her through this difficult time. To our surprise, my mother-in-law's response was somewhat unexpected. She asked if she could turn to John for help in the future if needed. My husband was taken aback and hesitated, unsure of how to respond. She assured us that she would find a way to manage her finances, though my husband remained concerned that it might involve gambling or other risky behaviors. We kept a vigilant eye on her, hoping she wouldn't find herself in more trouble. Amidst these challenges, my husband suddenly suffered an injury that required hospitalization. This unexpected turn of events added another layer of difficulty to our lives as we spent our days shuttling back and forth between the hospital and home to care for him. I hadn't noticed any changes in my mother-in-law's daily routine until one day, after my husband was discharged from the hospital, I decided to visit his parents' home. It had been a while since our last visit, and I immediately felt that something was different in the atmosphere. "Mom, it's been a long time," my husband greeted her with a warm smile. My mother-in-law responded, "John, it's good to see you. How are you feeling? Can you run again?" She smiled back, and as they exchanged pleasantries, my husband began to look through her bank book. To his astonishment, he saw that the funds we had set aside to help with her previous debts were nearly depleted. "What happened to the money in this bank book, Mother?" my husband asked, clearly taken aback. His mother-in-law offered a slightly sheepish smile and said, "Well, I went out for tea with some friends and ended up buying a few things I shouldn't have. It's been quite a mess." She laughed ruefully, clearly aware of the situation but unable to offer a better explanation. At her revelation, my husband and I were left stunned. It felt as though we had carefully saved money for my mother-in-law's future, only for her to spend it freely without a second thought. My husband couldn't hide his frustration. "Mom, you shouldn't spend money like this. Do you realize how much effort we put into saving for your future?" he said, clearly disheartened. Seeing her genuine remorse, we became even more concerned about her well-being. We suggested that she move in with us so we could better support her. Her face lit up with relief and happiness at the offer, and she agreed to leave her home and move into our apartment. Our new life together began, and my mother-in-law quickly adapted to her new surroundings. We enjoyed our time together, sharing meals and laughter around the table. She eagerly took on housework, which made daily life surprisingly smooth for us. Her cheerful attitude brought a new warmth and brightness to our home, making our days more joyful and fulfilling. I asked, "Mom, what would you like for lunch today?" She replied, "I think I'd like yuan." "That sounds good," I said, noting her choice. Since I was working from home, I was in a position to keep an eye on how my mother-in-law managed her finances. With my husband and me covering her living expenses and my husband overseeing her account, we expected her spending to be under control. Despite this, we remained vigilant, concerned she might still mismanage the funds. Days turned into weeks, and before we knew it, 6 months had passed. One afternoon, while we were relaxing in the living room, the intercom buzzed. Curious about who it might be, I answered and was surprised to find my sister-in-law Melissa standing at the door. "Melissa, it's been a while. Is Mom around?" I asked, slightly taken aback by her direct question before even exchanging greetings. I invited her in and showed her to the living room. "Mom, it's good to see you," Melissa said as she entered. "Oh, Melissa, what a surprise. What brings you here?" my mother-in-law responded warmly. "I just wanted to catch up and see you," Melissa said. "I'm glad you're here. How are things?" "I'm doing well, thank you. John is here with me. Would you like to join us for lunch?" Melissa asked. "Of course, I'd love to," my mother-in-law replied with enthusiasm. Melissa must have taken my mother-in-law out to a restaurant or something similar, so we decided to wait at home. When they returned in the evening, we immediately noticed a change in their demeanor. Melissa confronted me with an unexpected accusation. "Emma, you're tormenting my mother, aren't you?" she said, leaving me stunned and confused. My mother-in-law also looked at me with a stern expression. My husband quickly defended me. "What are you talking about? There's no way Emma would do something like that." Despite his reassurance, Melissa was unyielding. "John, you're being deceived too. Mom says she can't go out and that Emma is making things difficult for her at home." We were both taken aback. It was true that we had occasionally refused my mother-in-law's requests to go shopping, concerned that she might overspend. However, the claim that I was taking her money was completely unexpected. I was unsure if my mother-in-law genuinely felt this way or if Melissa had exaggerated the situation. It appeared that Melissa and my mother-in-law were now united in their accusations against me. "What exactly do you want from me?" I felt as if I were under a spell, bewildered by their intentions. What could they possibly want to communicate? Just then, my sister-in-law made an unexpected demand. "I want you to leave our house." Her words hit me hard. "I don't believe my mother can be truly happy living with you," she continued, her face showing disappointment. My mother-in-law, looking conflicted, seemed on the verge of speaking but remained silent, casting a pained glance in my direction. "If you were gone," Melissa added, "it would allow me and John to relax and enjoy our time together." Her words left me stunned, and I struggled to find a response. They had no idea that I had used my personal savings to pay off her debts. In hindsight, I should have clarified that this money was not part of our joint marital funds but my own. Looking at my husband, I saw the anger in his eyes. His hands were clenched, and he was visibly shaking. Melissa, unfazed, continued, "My mother and I will be living here from now on, so I need you to leave." Taking a deep breath, I replied, I understand, but I won't be involved in what happens next. After that confrontation, my husband and I decided to move out. On the day of our departure, they were taken aback by one unexpected revelation. Looks like you've arranged to leave so soon, Melissa remarked, surprised by our swift departure. Well, yes, my husband said with a hint of amusement. I have something to tell you, Melissa. What is it? She asked, intrigued. With a chuckle, my husband replied, since I'm getting older, I've been thinking it's time to transfer the house into your name. Melissa's eyes lit up with excitement. Really? The house will be mine? My husband calmly handed her the paperwork for the name transfer. All you need to do is sign here. Overjoyed, Melissa exclaimed, I can't believe it's going to be my own place, and quickly signed the documents. My husband and I exchanged knowing glances and smiles, pleased with how our plan had unfolded. Well, it's time for us to start preparing to move, my husband said. What? John, you're really leaving? Yes, I've decided to leave as well. Oh, even John is leaving. Do you really have to go with Emma? If I'm not with Emma, I wouldn't be comfortable either. It's normal for married couples to stay together. I expected you'd say that, but what about the house expenses and other costs? That's something you'll need to handle on your own, John replied. Wait a minute, I quit my job because I expected you'd support me. John and I were taken aback by my sister-in-law's sudden declaration. If you continue like this, you're going to create a lot of trouble for me and our mother, John warned. That's fine. If you can find a way to manage on your own, you have her mother's pension to help, and with a bit of saving, you should be able to get by, I said. Yes, and with my pension added in, it should work out. Since you're moving out, we'll need to be creative with our budgeting, my husband added. My sister-in-law looked slightly reassured by my mother-in-law's supportive words. It's my new home now. If I save a bit, I should be able to make it work. John and I exchanged knowing smiles, amused by her optimism, unaware that the property was a rental. Around that time, the movers arrived. We greeted them and started the process of clearing out our belongings. My sister-in-law and mother-in-law watched with dismay. What's going on? Are you moving out already? Are you taking everything with you? Of course, we bought all this stuff. Should I really have to replace everything? I replied. That's right. I wish you'd have taken that into account earlier, my sister-in-law remarked, clearly frustrated. Well, we'd better get going, my husband said with a smile as we prepared to leave the house. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law stood frozen in astonishment. After a while, my sister-in-law called my husband's cell phone. Hey John, what's this about a rent bill all of a sudden? I must have misunderstood something. Am I not actually the owner of this house? My husband asked. Who told you that? Actually, I'm renting this house. The document you signed was a rental agreement, so it's only natural that you be billed for the rent, she explained. Seriously, I had no idea, my husband replied, clearly surprised. Yes, it's your residence now, so you're responsible for the rent, she confirmed. But my salary is not as high as yours, my husband protested. You might find this amusing, but Emma actually earns more than I do, my husband said. Really? It's true. She's been working hard at a well-paying remote job, which is why we've been able to live so comfortably in that apartment, he added. My sister-in-law was taken aback and fell silent. Then I heard my mother-in-law's anxious voice. We're so sorry, she said, her tone filled with regret. I truly apologize. Could you please reconsider and come back? My husband replied with gentle firmness. Thank you, Mother, but it's difficult for me to come back given how you've treated Emma. She is my priority. Please handle the rest on your own. After that conversation, I heard various updates. My sister-in-law and mother-in-law had struggled with rent payments and were forced to find a new apartment. They ended up in a small place barely large enough for the two of them. Reports indicated that they were facing financial difficulties and frequent arguments, with additional stress coming from nosy neighbors. Meanwhile, John and I have settled into our new home, enjoying a fresh start. Our days are filled with joy and contentment.